Hi, welcome to the next lesson in developing spatial thinking. Today we're going to be going over our second module associated with orthographic projections. So let's jump in with our recap. We know that orthographic projections consist of a top, front, and side view, and they're perceived as if you're looking directly at the object with no indication of depth. We'll use orthographic projections to go between isometric drawings and back to orthographic projections and then in the reverse direction. Let's also recap on our hidden information technique. Now, orthographic projections can hide information, so what we do to indicate that is we usually see in the front and side views a dashed line, and that indicates any hidden edges that are not viewable from that side of the object. So let's jump into our first example. Now, all of the examples that you'll see in the module here will be going explicitly from orthographic projections to an isometric drawing. So our first example here, we see the top in the top right, rather in the top left, we've got our top view of the object. In the bottom left, we've got the front view of the object, and in the bottom right, we've got our side view of the object. In the top right there, we've got a grid that allows us to do our isometric drawing. So let's take a look at our first isometric drawing. We will change the color. Let's make it blue. So the technique that I'm going to employ when we're developing an isometric drawing is first I'm going to turn the top view into a coded plane. You might remember from the previous module I mentioned that they look very similar, and we're going to use that similarity to our advantage. So we're going to take a look at the top view, and we can tell that this row of cubes right here and this row of cubes right here, those are at different heights, and we can tell that because of the solid line between them. Based off of the front view here, we can also see that this row and this row right here are at different heights. And based off of the way that the line is drawn, I'm going to conclude that this stack of two rows, this stack of two squares right here, is in the back. And what that means is that this is essentially a pair of two stacks of two cubes. And what that also means is that the front here is going to be only one tall. And we can see that in the side view. This is essentially the back of the object over here, this is the front of the object over here, and then this is the top of the object up here. So when we're dealing with the back of the object back here, we can see that there's a stack of two cubes, there are stacks that are two tall in the back. And then in the front, we can see that we only have stacks of one tall. And that's the same thing here. Up in the top view, we can see that we've got our back portion of the object here, we've got the side view here, and we've got the front view here. So we can see how that corresponds, where the back of the object has two stacks of height 2. So based off of that, I'm going to change back to black, and we can draw our isometric drawing. So I'm going to begin with the base level here. We're going to draw what's closest to me. And what's closest to me is going to be the stack of 1, rather the two stacks of 1. And in the back, further away from me, we're going to have our stacks of height 2. And if we want to verify, we can go back to the technique that we used earlier, which was we use blue to indicate the top view. We use red to indicate the front view. And we use green to indicate the side view. Hopefully you can see, particularly in the side view, that this L lines up with what we see in our illustration. And the same can be said for the front and side views as well. They correspond to their colored sides of the cube. We'll now move on to another example. Let me change my color back to, let's change it back to black. You can see that we've got our top view right here, front view here, and our side view over here. Again, we're going to try to turn the top view into a coded plane. So this row, and this row are all at different heights, and based off of the front view, I can see that what's closest to me is this 1 by 1 cube right here. So based off of that, I'm going to put a 1 right there. Now we can see that as we kind of move back in the front drawing, we can see that we enter into an area where we have stacks that are 2 tall right here. So we're going to fill in 2. And then we do the same process. We kind of go further back into the front view, and we can see here that we've got a stack that is 3 tall and is 3 wide. We can see that that corresponds to what we see here in the top view. We're going to verify, get our sanity check in from the side view. So we can see here that we've got our stack of 1. And again, this is the front of the object, so we can see that that stack of 1 is closest to the front, which is corroborated right here. Then we've got our stack of 2. And then we have our stack of 3. So we can see here that we've almost got a stair-step looking object. So we're going to move over to our isometric graph paper, and we're going to begin sketching. I'm going to draw what's closest to me, which is that stack, which is only 1 cube tall. Then I'm going to move back, and I'm going to draw that 2 by 2 region. Finally, I'm going to move back again and draw that 3 by 3 region. And now we'll complete our isometric drawing. Now I should mention, and it's something that I failed to mention in our previous example, that once we've completed our top view so that it now looks like a coded plan, our marked viewing angle is always going to be in the bottom right. And that's just based off of how we construct the orthographic projection. It's always going to be in the bottom right. And so that may help you when you're developing your isometric drawing, is now you have a coded plan with the marked viewing angle. Let's move on to one more example. So we've got our top view over here, we've got our front view here, and we've got our side view right here. I'm going to take a look at the top view, and I'm going to start to construct a coded plan. Now based off the top view, I can see that these 4 squares are all the same height, and then this one is at a different height. Based off of the front view, I can see that we've got the highest that we go is 2 tall. And I can also see that that this tower particularly is 2 tall. Well, if I was over here and I was looking straight at the object, I would see that tower right there. So with that in mind, I'm going to fill these all in at 2. And we can see here that the front view also has a cube here that's kind of delineated out of the rest of the cubes. And based off of that, I'm going to draw a 1, because this cube is only 1 tall. I'm going to corroborate that with my side view. So I can see here that this is the front view and this is the top view. So based off of that, what's closest to the front is that cube that's only 1 tall. We can see that that's the case here in our top view. And we can see that it goes all the way back. There's about 4 cubes long. And then our dashed line indicates that we've got a hidden edge. Now if we were over here and we were looking at the object, we wouldn't be able to see that edge. And so that makes sense that this edge right here needs to be indicated or compensated for in our side view with that dashed line. So I'm going to mark my viewing angle on the top view. We've made our sanity check. We can now begin our isometric drawing. So I'm going to draw what's closest to me, that stack of 1 cube. And now I'm going to start working my way back. It looks like I've got 3 cubes that are going to be 2 tall after that. And then I've also got a little bit of a hook there at the end with that other stack of height 2. And I can see here that I've got a spare line here that I didn't want to have there. So I'm going to erase that, and we're going to patch up the drawing. You'll have to forgive my artistic abilities. They're a bit lacking. And that will complete our isometric drawing of this orthographic projection. So be sure you complete the homework before you move on to the next module. That will obviously complete this module. All the homework exercises that you'll see will consist of you going from an orthographic projection to an isometric drawing.